A teenager informs her dentist that she is going to the high school and now she's taking on more responsibilities, and especially for her well-being. But she reports that flossing her teeth is a very tedious and tiresome work and really perhaps not necessary thing to add to her long list of things she has to do each and every day. So the dentist smiled and said, I have a very good news for you. I have a very special prescription. You can floss all your teeth you want to keep. No. She had a choice. During Lent, we have this very special season when we are faced with or invited to look at our life of things like, where we are right now, what's our relationships with others, what things are working in our life, what things are not working in our life. And as we look at the Serenity prayer, we are seeing the second part is talking about the courage to change. Because in change, there is always this element of courage. It's not comes easy. Change is difficult, especially the change when we have to work in ourselves. We know that the things which we cannot change most of the time are the situations which are outside of us, that in some way come to us and we are responding to them with prayer and sometimes with acceptance, sometimes in the way that we are placing this on God. But there are many things which we can change in our heart, which is on our part to do, and how we are doing this. So first and foremost is the examination of conscience. This is the way in which we are able to place ourselves in this very moment, to see where we are, to in some way stop in prayer. And prayer gives us courage to honestly present ourselves before God with all humbleness, with all truth, without being secretive about anything, because God knows everything. And when we realize where we are, we're able to move forward. And in this examination of conscience, we are examining ourselves. And many times we would like to examine, especially in a marriage, a wife would like to examine the husband, and many times they have the whole list, and the husband has the list for her, for wives. This is not the way. No, this is not how we do the examination of conscience. And the examination of conscience is yourself. Okay, kids? That's the same. It's not about your parents or your siblings, okay? It's about yourself. Examination of conscience is to see where I am, how I am responding to the three relationships in our life. The first relationship with God, how I am responding to the gift of life, to the gift of love God is always giving me. Because we know that we always, in our life, sometimes we turn away from God. Yes? Sometimes we wander off. Sometimes we forget about our very special friendship we have with God and the beautiful love and forgiveness God is offering us each and every time. And that's how we call sin. But what sin is exactly? It's missing the mark. I always like to compare our life to the school of love, because indeed it is. From the first breath to the last breath, we are learning how to love God, how to love our neighbor, and how to explore and love what God has given us, our personality, our whole self, and those three relationships. So first relationships is with God. So we can examine, how is my friendship with God? Am I praying often? Am I finding myself in the present moment when I can first give thanks to God for all the blessings He is bestowing on me? Or the things which I have to change, and asking God for the courage. The second relationship can be with others. How I'm treating others, how I can change, how I can have the courage to change my attitude, my way of giving what God has given me to share with others. The blessings each and every day, and opportunities which we have each and every day. How I am using my time, talent, and treasure with others. So that's the second relationship. We can talk about the courage to change. And that can be a part of our examination of conscience. And the third one, it will be the relationship with what God has given me and how I'm using this in totally. Am I thankful to God? Am I recognizing what God has gave me? Am I accepting my limitations as well? So those are three areas which we can work on as our examination of conscience. Examination which is very important. And many times it's not only before you go to the sacrament of confession, which we will talk just in a moment about, but it's also every day. More we are in present moment, more we know what can be changed in ourselves, more we will be sensitive to things and able to be better, to be the disciples of Christ, to be truly love in action each and every day. And when we find ourselves that we have sinned or we have missed the mark of being love in action in certain situations, we have this beautiful sacrament of reconciliation, which has a very different names. The sacrament of penances, reconciliation, but this is also the sacrament of healing. In this sacrament, we receive, yes, we are coming to this very sacrament, and we are expressing the things which we have missed the mark verbally. And somebody may say, oh, but I'm doing this in my mind, like, I'm talking with God, I'm like, revealing this with God, who knows already, and I can work with this. But here is the thing. Many times, I don't know about you, but many times when we just mentally are trying to do something, we find ourselves to excuse ourselves for this and that and others. You're saying, you're good enough. And in some way, we are forgetting about this. There is also another part of it. It's the same as the school. That's why I like the analogy of our life as the school. In the school, if you read something aloud, you remember this a little bit better. When you verbalize things aloud, it helps to change ourselves because in some way it goes out from us. In some way, it's the burden of the thing, of this missing the mark, of the sin, is shared. It's given away. It's the same a little bit like in the week past when we were putting to the stone the things we cannot change and throw them away, even though we knew where they are. In some way, it's the same as we go to the sacrament of reconciliation or confession. When we verbalize the things which we have done in the past, which we are sorry for, and we want to give this back to God, and God in return is giving us peace. Because we are reconciled with God, with others, and with ourselves. So once again, those three relationships are fixed through this very sacrament. These three relationships. in a beautiful way. So the things which we can change requires some courage, require some thoughts, but also require some action. And we see the examples of courage in our readings today, when the Samuel is not setting up on one decision, but he's courageously trying to find the new ways. Jesus, who is giving the blind man sight. And that's actually, like, when we look at this story, that's a very interesting story, because it's very different from other healings. Because usually, like, Jesus is just touching somebody or just saying, but here is the action actually involved. Jesus not only is putting the clay on his eyes, but he's sending him to be cleansed in the waters of the Siloam. So his action, he could drop everything out and say, like, oh, I'm not following through. But he did. And he had to have the courage. Think about him. He was blind for so many years. And somebody's just placing the clay on his eyes, and he said, like, to him, go to wash yourself and you will have sight. That was the courage to trust. That was the courage to say, yes, I believe you, and I will do what you are saying. He believed Jesus to be healed, and he had the courage to move forward, to go to be cleansed. And as we see, the second part, it's not about the healing, it's still connected with the healing, but other people were not accepting this. And many times in our life, when we change, some people will not see the change, but we know what needs to be changed. Sometimes there can be an opposition from others. But as we remember, we cannot change others, we can change ourselves. And we know if we are honest with God, if we are seeing what has to be changed in us, we know what's the next loving and kind step will be. And we remember that God is always with us. So the same as in the opening story with this teenager, she had a choice whether not to floss and say goodbye to the teeth, or to floss and be happy with beautiful smile. The same we, with some courage here and there, with some action which we have to do, the action to change, the action to be better each and every time requires some courage. And hope with the power of God, with our prayer, we can move forward and truly change with courage what we can change in our hearts. Amen.